People desire something higher to live for. If you teach them just to live for themselves, they will please themselves in the moment. And sex ed, drinking and drugs is a great example of that. I was listening to an interview probably about 2 years ago now of a woman from Planned Parenthood, or one of those kind of organisations, and looking at the number of levels of sexual intercourse among teenagers and how they actually risen, not decreased, after all this sex education. And her first line was, "Yes, but we haven't seen an increase in sexual activity under the age of 13. My first response was, okay, well, you found a statistic that helps you out. Pretty much we've gone to the basic level now that we're very happy that there's not much sexual activity in prepubescent children. So that should be some kind of source of happiness, that people who are actually gone fully through puberty aren't having sex. I don't know what you think, but that just seems like a crazy idea. But then she gets to the level of saying, well, the reason why we haven't had a decrease is not because of the curriculum, not because of what we've taught them, it's because we haven't taught them properly, which is the age-old, the next trick in the book. If you've had years and years of promoting an idea and it hasn't achieved the results that you planned it would, then you simply claim that it hasn't been taught properly and the idea is fine. Okay, let's just have another pro-condom campaign. They have one a week now. That's another example of the fact that giving people the idea that there is no moral truth actually leads to destruction of people's lives. It leads to it. Let's have a look at pornography. Now, I have looked at many studies about this, but pornography is freely available. You can't tell me what to do. I'm not hurting anybody, except actually promoting the victimisation of those poor women that are in the videos. I'm not hurting anybody. I would guarantee you, and I'd bet my life on this, that you will not find a single rapist, particularly male rapist, in this country that was not obsessed with pornography. You will not find it. And I'll bet my bottom dollar. Okay, so we're pumping all this pornography, making it freely available, saying, well, it's objective, there's no objective truth, you can have it or give it or take it, people can have what they like and not. And then we're surprised that there's sexual crimes going on all the time. Yeah, it is schizophrenic. Okay, so that's another example. Cardinal Ratzinger, on the eve of his election as Pope Benedict XVI, gave a homily in which he said some of those poignant words that sum up today's situation. The small boat of thought. The small boat of the thought of many Christians has often been tossed about by these waves, flung from one extreme to the other, from Marxism to liberalism, even to libertinism, from collectivism to radical individualism, from atheism to vague religious mysticism, from agnosticism to syncretism, and so forth. We are building a dictatorship of relativism that does not recognise anything as definitive and whose goal consists solely of one's own ego and desires. The dictatorship of relativism. And hopefully those small anecdotal things I just gave you as an example of that. People are enslaved and lives are destroyed by a disregard for objective moral truth. It's not simply get out of my bedroom, leave me alone, I just want to watch a bit of pornography at home and go to my job of the day. It affects people's lives in a great degree. Everything we do has an effect. And this relativism has become so ingrained that we are heading for a society that places scientific progress and materialism over goodness and selflessness, and ours and our children's generations are left with nothing. No right or wrong, just a storm of conflicting motives and ideas in which to wade through. So that's where we're heading if we do not come to the understanding that there are moral truths. So how do we align our own view, our subjective view, the way we see the world, the way we see the truth, how do we align it to the truth? In other words, how do we know what is right and wrong? Well, a human person chooses what is right or wrong by following this thing called conscience. And conscience is, to define conscience, we'll say conscience is an individual's instinctive and externally formed awareness of moral truth. So it's both instinctive and externally formed. Okay? It is inherently subjective in that it is based on our own views during a certain situation. Okay, we're not robots. Our own choices are made and they're all subjective. Both emotion and logic is usually involved in these decisions, but emotions cannot be a sole basis. For instance, a gossiper can feel very good when destroying someone's reputation, and in matters of sexual morality, emotions can be highly unreliable. Okay, so it's not following your emotions. Follow your heart. Do what you feel. That's not entirely accurate. Neither is conscience totally instinctive from birth. The way it judges things is learnt from parents and mentors. A child who has been brought up in a house that advocates honesty and hard work will have a far different outlook than a child that was brought up on bad language and habitual dishonesty. That's pretty self-evident. The proficiency of our conscience can change for the better or worse as our social and internal life changes, and our spiritual life, if you're spiritual. Just as our technical skill improves with learning and practice or declines with laziness and apathy, so does a person's view of what is right and wrong, and subsequently the nature of their actions. And I'm going to keep reminding you of this. Conscience forms actions which affect people. Okay, these might be theoretical things, but in the end, it makes a decision about what you do when you get up in the morning. Okay, as an example, I have plenty of friends who said that they would never sleep with a girl before they were married. Okay, so they had a moral compass. They'd seen happy marriages. They'd heard about saving themselves and respecting themselves when they were young, and there's an anthropological and inherent desire to be loved. And they decided that they wouldn't sleep with a girl before they were married. But after a while, their ideas changed due to age and peer pressure and television, and they subsequently changed their moral beliefs, okay, or at least their actions, and justify those actions by changing their moral beliefs. When they were younger, they believed it to be wrong. Now they think it morally justifiable and even necessary. Human development can result in an increasing ability to deceive ourselves. The idea that our consciences are the supreme moral guide is also totally relativist. Okay, the idea that my individual conscience is good enough is totally relativist. It is your supreme moral guide. Okay, and in the sense that what guides your actions is your conscience, and you can't escape that. But the idea that my conscience tells the truth is usually an insincere cop-out to avoid making hard decisions. Our conscience influences the way we make judgments, but they must be based on the truth and formed in the truth over time, not just on a whim. Okay, so, and as I said, conscience affects actions, so it's very important that people have a yardstick to base the decisions of their life on. And of course, that yardstick is the truth. Okay, so how do we form our consciences? How do we know what is right? We try and find out what the truth is. Life is complicated and many personal and moral decisions are difficult, but there are many clear-cut answers as well, and we need to be courageous when it comes to taking a moral stance, even when we don't feel like it. Okay, that's what courage is. Doing something you don't feel like. Feelings should not guide you solely. Sometimes you have to fight them. Okay, what about ignorance? Okay, what if you just haven't had a formed conscience? Isn't that good enough? Good enough just to follow your conscience and do what you think is right? Well, to a degree, and nobody wouldn't feel for a person who sincerely believed that what they were doing was right. Okay, so if they were sincere. A child, for instance, he may in total ignorance pick his mother's prize-winning orchids as a present for her. I did that. Hopefully the mother would see this sincerity, but she would also point out that the flowers are special and that not to pick them anymore.